Hey everyone, today we're going to go ahead and make some tomato soup and grilled cheese. If you have tomatoes at home, you're going to need about 4 cups of them cut up. If you don't have them, you're going to need canned tomatoes. About 28 ounces is what the recipe calls for. So the first thing we're going to do is turn our stove on. You want it about medium heat, and you're going to let it warm up. Make sure you wash your hands, which I've already done. You're going to use 1 tablespoon of butter. On your stick of butter, there is measurements. And then you're going to cut that, put it right in there to start sizzling. You're going to take about a clove of garlic and mince it up really good. If you have pre-cut or minced garlic like I have, you're going to use about a half a teaspoon. Toss it right in there. And you're going to let that cook for about a minute. You just want to let the butter melt and then the garlic start melting right into that. All right. The next thing we're going to throw in is 1 slice of onion. So I would say you would want your slice of onion to be about a ½ inch thick. And you're literally just going to take 1 slice and you're going to cube that up, tucking your fingers while you're using the knife, and you're going to throw it right in. Making sure our stove is on medium. You're going to let that saute right up. So this is going to take 1 to 2 minutes. The onion's not going to be fully cooked at that end of that time, but you'll see that in the recipe we've got it cooking for much longer, so it will be cooked by the time that it is done. I want to make sure we stir that around so everything is buttered. All right, the next ingredient that is going to go in, I'll just set this right behind us, is going to be your flour. Now today we are using gluten-free flour just as an alternative. Anybody who has regular flour can use the same thing. So we're going to put in 2 tablespoons of flour. Make sure your spoons are nice and level. Tapping them off. Put it right in the middle. And you're going to use your spatula to move that all around in that butter and the onion. You want to keep it moving so that it doesn't get too lumpy. See how we're moving around and it's kind of coating the potato and the onions, but not getting super lumpy. So you're going to cook that again for 1 to 2 minutes. You'll see that they are starting to get brown. Onions are browning up and the flour is browning up nicely. You just keep moving it around. And then I am just taking my spatula and just knocking the stuff off the edges of it so we're not losing any of the ingredients. All right, now that that's going, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and add the broth in. It's going to be about 2 cups of broth. I have chicken broth just because I like it a little bit more flavorful. You can also use vegetable broth. So just 2 cups right into your pot. And again, this is the same thing if it's on the stove, you just want it on medium. You're gonna put your 2 cups right in. It will start simmering. And you're gonna wanna mix it around just a little bit, make sure everything is going to the right temperature. And the next thing we're gonna add is your tomatoes. So again, if you have fresh tomatoes at home, the soup is actually even better because you don't have all the preservatives. You're gonna wanna cut them up. The size of the chunk doesn't matter too much because we're gonna use a blender at the end of the video to make the soup really smooth and creamy. The bigger the pieces, the longer it's gonna take to cook. If you make them too small, it's gonna get mushy. So usually like 1 inch cubed works really well. All right. We're gonna go throw that right into the pot with the onions and the garlic and the broth. I'm gonna stir that right in. See how that's looking? Make sure it's on medium. And we can go ahead and add the rest of our dry ingredients. It's a really quick soup. Once you throw everything in, you get to let it just sit and do your other things. So the next ingredient is going to be sugar, which we use about 2 teaspoons. You can cut the sugar out if you, or cut it in half even if you don't want to have a lot of sugar intake. I find the sugar cuts down the acidity of the tomatoes a little bit, so I like the flavor of it better. So we put in 2 teaspoons of that. We're gonna put in a half a teaspoon of black pepper. Make sure your scoops are nice and level. We don't want too much or too little. Want to let it all over. Put in there. And 1 teaspoon. Sorry, half a teaspoon of salt as well. Forgot we're cutting this recipe in half, so half a teaspoon of salt. Again, the great thing about this is you can take out some ingredients, you can add in more ingredients, you could add in thyme or basil if you wanted to. You don't have to do the sugar, you don't have to do the pepper. It's all flavored to your taste and how you're gonna like it. So we are gonna go ahead and bring this to a simmer. I have my griddle, or my skillet rather, sorry, on 350 degrees. A stove I would keep at medium. It's obviously at first not really doing anything. You can start seeing little bubbles. So you want to bring it to a simmer, not a boil. So a boil is rolling bubbles, it's really bubbling a lot. A simmer is like this where you can see it just popping a little bit. If it gets to a rolling boil, it's okay. I would just turn it down, make sure you're really stirring it and getting the bottom so that it doesn't get burnt on, because then your whole pot of soup is going to taste burnt. So the next step is to simmer this for 30 minutes. So I'm going to keep it on my temperature that I have it at. I'm going to go ahead and cover it. You don't have to cover it if you don't want to. I'm just doing it to try and speed things up a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and let this go for 30 minutes and then I'll come right back at you.